The Peter is June. If you didn't know where I got that from, then you don't know who the Peter is. So you should click the link down below in the Ning and watch the video that this is a video response to. And if you'd like, you should also watch the video that video is a response to, although the subjects talked about in that video are not what I'm talking about in this video. But it is still an interesting and fun video, so you should watch that. I'll give you a moment to do that. This is where an intro would go if I ever got around to making one. Hi, Peter. So, I'm gonna try and be articulate. I don't know how well I'm going to be doing at that. Okay, so the first thing I would like to point out is that not all science fiction and fantasy has to take place in the modern day or the future. There's a genre called steampunk, and there are a lot of intricacies and a lot of different rules in it, but basically what it is being in the past, in the 40s and the 50s, and in those old historical eras, but being advanced in technology like we are now. A lot of the technology isn't the sort of Star Trek-y, sort of out of this world technology. It's just things that we have now, but it's put in a different time period. And I think that that genre is going to be getting more popular. And I think that those technologies will still seem interesting to us, not because they're completely impossible or completely different from things that we have now, but because they're in such a different setting and therefore they're used in different ways. And even when things are being taken place in the future, they're dealing with a lot of stuff that is impossible. Even though that the things that are possible is growing, does not mean that the things that are impossible is really getting any less. Like, the amount of things that we can do that we thought that we couldn't is absolutely minuscule compared to the millions of things that people have imagined that are just not possible. And I think that we as a human race will always be thinking of new impossibilities and trying to reach those impossibilities even when we know that we can't. That's what our stories and our imaginations are for. You say that technology will continue to increase so that the realm of physically possible things will be completely taken over and that our imaginations wouldn't be able to keep up with that, but really there wouldn't be anything else for us to create if our imaginations didn't keep pushing the boundary of possible. And as long as people keep creating these seemingly impossible things, that will still keep the literature, the science fiction, and the fantasy, that kind of imagination and that kind of possibilities around. Also, one of the things you mentioned is how in the Harry Potter series you were thinking that it would be so much more convenient for there to be cell phones because communication was so vital. Just thinking of it in a storytelling view, there were no cell phones because communication was vital. Even in stories taking place in modern days, there are a lot of times when technology just isn't available because it makes things so convenient, and that isn't good for storytelling. Their cell phones are lost or broken, or they can't afford one, or they just don't believe in them, because otherwise it would make things too easy. In order for it to be a compelling story, there has to be things that you have to overcome and things that you can't do, and if something is vital, such as communication, you have to be able to not do that so that you can find another interesting way around that in order to go to your next step. You know, thinking about that, that may actually mean that new stories might actually have less of technology because of how easy it makes things. Stories aren't about the things that are easy, they're about the things that are hard, and by eliminating technology, that might actually be the more interesting route to science fiction and fantasy. I don't know, I'm not as articulate as some other YouTubers might be, but that is my thoughts on that. Also, the last thing that you said in your video was kind of upsetting. Don't you put down the human imagination.